The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? SelectQuote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.
This AI moment hits different. It's the first technology designed not just to serve us, but to be us. I'm Baratunde Thurston, and on my new video podcast, Life with Machines, I'm going to talk to all kinds of folks, the people hitting the gas pedal on this transition and those trying to pump the brakes. Watch and listen to Life with Machines, powered by Lenovo in partnership with Intel. Intel Core Ultra 7 processor, powering Intel V Pro.
Lenovo. Drinking and driving is a decision that could change your whole world. Things will never be the same if you ever get a DUI. Because legal fees and time in court are just the beginning. Getting into a crash is another way that your world can be turned upside down. Your vehicle may not be the only thing that gets damaged in that crash. You can face a life-altering injury or even death, but you're not the only one that can face those consequences. Your decision to drink and drive can permanently impact not just your world, but someone else's world as well. Whether you injure them or leave their loved ones grieving. The next time you're out drinking, call a rideshare, a taxi, a sober friend, or a designated sober driver. The only decision that will change your world for the better is the decision to call for a sober ride. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Parents, did you know that only 50% of U.S. adults are financially literate? Millions of people don't fully understand how to manage money, and it's up to you to not let your kids grow up into that statistic. With Greenlight's educational money app and parent-controlled debit card, you can teach them how to earn, save, and invest wisely. The earlier they learn, the better prepared they'll be to manage their money and build a financially secure life. Give your kids the financial edge they need. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast. That's greenlight.com/podcast.
It's the Monday you've been waiting for. DSW's Cyber Monday sale is happening now at DSW.com. Today only, save 35% on almost everything online. Score the best deals of the year on must-have shoes, giftable bags, and cozy extras for everyone on your list, including you. Don't miss out. Save 35% online only at DSW.com today. Exclusions apply. Details at DSW.com.
Hello, this is international football commentator Derek Ray, and you're listening to the Ranks FC podcast.
Hello Ranks Squad and welcome to Ranks FC, here with you on Christmas Day. So whatever you are celebrating today, whether it's holidays, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Hanukkah, we hope you're having wonderful celebrations wherever you are. My name's Jack Collins and I'll be your host today, and I'm joined all the way across the water by Mr. Dean Jones, live from San Diego, early in the morning. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good, mate. Yeah, it is very early in the morning. Yeah, 6 a.m. here. But I dragged myself out of bed to make sure we did get this recorded and we did put something out. I'm not sure that many podcasts that we published on Christmas Day, to be honest. And for a slight moment, I was tempted not to, because I thought, nobody's getting up Christmas Day wanting to listen to Ranks FC. But I didn't want to break the pattern. We've never, ever left the Wednesday out. Never. And I just didn't want to break it. So I was like, you know what? It doesn't have to be the most detailed, analytical podcast we've ever done. There might be someone out there today that just wants to hear our voices, mate. Have a little listen to Ranks as they go for their morning walk, because some people don't even like Christmas. Some people don't want to do all that sort of stuff. So we're here for you guys. And I promise you, we'll make the next 40 minutes or so a bit of fun for you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we need to do anything too lighthearted, too analytical, as you say. We're going to do lighthearted. That is what we're doing.
We are.
We're going to talk about some of the things we've enjoyed from the season so far.
I can tell it's Christmas, by the way, because of your background. It's a very typical spare bedroom look that you've got going on right now. And this is what people have at Christmas, isn't it? Like, you stay at your parents or your aunts or your cousins or some randoms, and you set up in some weird bedroom. Your room doesn't look weird, but I can definitely tell it's not your normal setup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at my mum and dad's house. This is actually the room that I recorded the last ever episode of BR Football Ranks in. Right. I think if you remember when we started out, at working from home during those Bleacher Report days, I did like a thing where I wore a different football shirt every day, and I said day one in the Calderon, because there's this tiny little room at my mum and dad's house.
Oh, yeah.
I used to call it the Cauldron. I'm back in the Cauldron. So a little bit of nostalgia for the old BR heads as well, I'd say. But you're right there. Lots of people get new devices, I think, at Christmas.
Yes.
Like you might get a new, phone or
iPad.
Yeah, one of those things. So I thought that maybe if you kind of ticked on, you were like, oh, there's a new episode of that. You might be tuning in.
Your first listen
minutes.
on your new device. Yeah. There's also this really good thing that goes on Twitter on Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, where people there's this theme. I can't remember the guy's name, but people start sending in photos of the weird beds that they're sleeping in on Christmas Eve. Like, they're going back to their parents' house and they're suddenly back into their bedroom from when they lived at home 20 years ago, and they're in this weird, or they're lodged into a cupboard at their aunt's house or whatever, in a sleeping bag. There's all these really weird bed setups that people deal with on Christmas Eve. But I'm sure you haven't got that, mate. It doesn't look like you're going to be sleeping in a cupboard tonight.
I'm not going to be sleeping in this room either. I've just been put in here while the presents are all out in different places. Mum was like, you can't go in that room. I'm like, Mum, come on. I'm in my third decade here. Gives a breather.
Mate, yeah. My first Christmas away from England, so it's going to be weird. So far, it doesn't feel that strange, but I think tonight, Christmas Eve, is the night when you start to feel a little bit strange. I reckon Christmas Day will definitely be different. But
when you the moment it's going to hit home for you is when you call home tomorrow and you call your mum and dad, and it's dark by the time you call them, and you're just waking up. They'll be well on their way. They'll be quite merry. And we had this the other day because my best friend's in New Zealand. And we do a family thing with our family, his family, and a couple of other families every year. And we rang them, and they were just getting up, and it was 10 p.m. for us. And they were like, we clearly are not in the right frame of mind to talk to you. Everyone was just like,
yes.
It was very different from where they were saying. They were like, oh yeah, we've just woken up. Yeah. I was like, oh,
exactly.
Right, cool, yeah.
There's those different phases. So I'm going to probably pre-record a message from us and the boys and I'll send it to Mum. Tonight, our time, Christmas Eve, their time, 7 a.m. Christmas Day, so that when she gets up, they'll have something from us, and then we'll phone them once they've done their presents or something like that. It's going to be absolute chaos Christmas Day. Lots of overstimulation, I would imagine, so that'll be fun.
The boys are going to enjoy it. You're just getting to that stage, aren't you, right, where Dylan's really starting to actually appreciate this as a Christmas now, understand what's going on.
Already doesn't really believe in Father Christmas, so
he's like, how's he got out here? He used to be in London. What's going on?
He's like, this seems very mysterious. Although right now he is watching the Santa tracker, which has just started, to see where the first presents are getting dropped off. So he's definitely buying in to it for now. And they're both getting a bike for Christmas. When they come out in the morning and they've got a new bike sitting next to the Christmas tree, that should be quite a good sight. I'll tell you, could do with a Christmas present, Pep Guardiola, mate. In this episode, we're going to just talk about some things that we love from this season, this year. We're just going to have a nice little chat about some things that we've loved. And I'm sorry, Man City fans, I'm sorry, but one of the things that I do love is Man City's unexpected demise. And it's not because it's funny, or even though it is quite funny. It's because it's so unexpected, and it's given everyone like new hope. Like suddenly there's teams have something to believe in. Like I can't believe I'm sitting here and Haaland can no longer score goals. Phil Foden was the footballer of the year. I'm sure I've ever seen such a big drop off in a player in my entire life. And Pep Guardiola can't win a football match anymore. He's won 1 in 12. What? How have those three things happened at the same time?
If you'd said
weird.
that at the start of the season, people would have been sending for the men in white coats.
It just wouldn't make it. You know nothing about football if you suggested that, basically. It's the sort of thing, you know.
You can look at it and say there might be a drop-off, fine, but like not to this degree, not to the point where Manchester City are the second worst side in the Premier League over the last 10 games. Only Southampton have picked up less points. Don't think anyone's conceded more goals. It's like mind-boggling stuff. You could have expected a drop-off, right? Fine, absolutely no problem. There were questions about the squad depth. There were questions about the age of the squad. No problem with all of that. But the idea that there will be a drop-off to this extent defies belief. And I would say this, like I have zero problems with City. In fact, I've always been quite defensive of them because they came up with Fulham all those years ago, and all the Man City fans I know are, real local Manchester people who pile in and go, and we're there on the Kippax at Main Road, and lots of different elements of this that I've always kind of bought into. I always thought their fans were brilliant when they were down in what was then Division 1, now the Championship with Fulham. Enjoyed those battles, enjoyed those things. I was always had a good time with City fans. So it's never been like that. And I have kind of never really bought into this whole, no, they don't have any fans thing. I think it's nonsense. But I think that whoever it is, if someone dominates for a degree of time, when Bayern won the league year in, year out in the Bundesliga, when Juventus went on that stretch of wins in Serie A, when PSG win every single one, you celebrate when somebody else breaks that cycle because it opens the field back up again. Now, look, Bayern might be back. They might win the league this year. PSG might be back on top again and back, after their stumbles. And it's not going to change anything forever. But it is nice to see different people winning things. And we're talking about, various bits and bobs in this podcast. My favorite things that have been released in kind of football documentary spaces over the last few years have been Copa's Once in a Lifetime, which were basically all about documenting teams getting to finals that don't win things all the time. And I think it's a really important thing that Ellie was talking about in those documentaries, because he's like, that's what it should be about. It should be about being able to dream and win trophies. And when dominance is so profound at the top of the division, then you always want someone else to break that so that the parity, the field opens back up. I don't think that's unnatural or anything particularly against City. It's just after a spell like this, you obviously want to see changes.
Yeah, totally. And you want to see how they react too. I mean, Man City are 7th in the league as we get to Christmas. They are 12 points behind Liverpool, and Liverpool have a game in hand. That's crazy. Fulham are 2 points behind Man City at Christmas. If you'd have told me that, I'd have been, whoa, we're 2nd in the league. That's what you would have believed that meant. But it's far from that. And there's a long way back. And, Man City are hosting Everton on Boxing Day, and they need to use that game as a platform to rebuild. And it's going to be fascinating to see what happens because we're looking at an Everton team who have suddenly got a reputation for being the kings of the 0-0, basically. They don't concede goals anymore. They've completely shut up shop. They're saying, thou shalt not pass, basically. Pickford's actually had a good season, but now his defenders in front of him are informed too. So this is not an easy game like it might have looked a month or so ago.
We got a message on our Patreon post box from one of our Everton supporting listeners, Liam, who basically said, do you think that Dyche can complete his Mona Lisa 3 0-0s in a row against top 6 sides? And I was like, that's a really, really interesting way of putting it. But also with what's going on right now, why not? And I've said that now, and undoubtedly City will probably win 5-0. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if at the end of that game, I looked at my phone after while coming out of Stamford Bridge, having seen the Fulham-Chelsea game, and I looked at my phone, it was like, oh, City drew 0-0 with Everton. I wouldn't be like, oh, wow, I'd shrug. I'd be like, sound, yeah.
No, mate, I think you'll be more surprised if Man City have beaten Everton 5-0 than if you come out and it's 0-0.
Absolutely, 100%.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why this is one of the things I'm loving so much about right now is because, like, this is madness. This is absolute madness. And it's going one of two ways. Either they are going to continue this crazy drop-off and they are going to have the worst title defence we've ever seen in the Premier League, or somehow Pep Guardiola does restore his reputation, their season's hopes, gets a couple of players through the door, and they manage to, I don't know, make the Champions League places and pull off some good wins along the way in the second half of the season, maybe nick a trophy or something. But that seems hugely unlikely. And this is something that people that work in the football world, we did not think would be supplying content right now. So I love that. I love that. As I say, sorry, Man City fans. I know I do dig you out sometimes, but this actually isn't like a dig at City. This is just like a narrative that is just brilliant. It really is.
100%. Let's move on to number 2 then, shall we?
Mate, I'm obviously really old, and I like that this is the year of the golden oldies. Everyone's making comebacks. You've got to be 30 plus now to be successful in football. That's what it seems like to me. As we get to Christmas, we've got Salah, the leading goal scorer in the Premier League. We've got Harry Kane, leading goal scorer in the Bundesliga. And we've got Robert Lewandowski, leading goal scorer in Spain. And we've had Messi go and win the MVP over in MLS. Okay, I know that probably should be expected of Messi no matter what age he is, but still did it. Still in his 30s. Mid-30s now, isn't he? Beyond mid-30s. What is he, 37 now? Wow. God, wow. He's catching up with me. That's how old Messi is now. He's actually catching up with me.
You're telling me he's aging faster than you
aging faster.
One for the old heads, that.
Lewandowski's younger than Messi, 36. Still banging him. Well, he's slowed down a bit, but he is the top scorer. Harry Kane, 31 at Bayern Munich, and Mo Salah, 32 at Liverpool. And at a time when it's very fashionable to look at these accounts like Rising Ballers and stuff, on Instagram, and like find all these next generational talents and watch the breakthroughs of whoever it is, Cole Palmer or whatever, as you try to predict who's going to be the next great thing. And we're talking about Vinicius Junior or I don't know, Arda Güler, whichever team it is you support, you was have someone breaking through. You're probably in love with Josh King at the moment. And we all talk about, you just get excited about what's coming next. But right now, we're just seeing the old pros remind him that, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but they don't need them because they can do the most important job in the game and they can stick the ball in the back of the net. And for all the fancy showboating we see these days, for all the social media posts, these lads you won't see a lot from. You won't see a lot from them on social media. You'll see some very dull content most of the time, unless it's Mo Salah pretending he's going to be leaving.
Robert Lewandowski dancing. That was a bit of a classic during the old COVID era.
That was, yeah. So I just like it, mate. I just like that these guys, especially, Lewandowski's probably the best example, someone who's proving people wrong at the moment. But even Mo Salah, keeps saying he's not the Salah of old. He's not the Salah of old, and he's not. But he's proven to be as effective as ever when you look at his goals and assists. And I definitely didn't see that coming. I really thought that Salah was kind of dwindling and that it wouldn't be the end of the world if he left Liverpool at the end of this season and just decided to go to Saudi Arabia. But now I think that you look at his impact, I think there's absolutely no way you want to lose this guy. Like, the condition of the bloke is absolutely insane. In fact, all of those guys that I've just mentioned, the way that they've looked after themselves in their career, how professional they've been, they are, just icons. Like actual icons. I don't know what an icon's going to look like in 10 years, but for now, this is the benchmark that the rest of them have got to kind of live up to.
I really enjoy that Mo Salah seems to be finding new records to break every week. And it's just like every time he does something, it's like, oh, Mo Salah's, gone to like 4th in the Liverpool assist chart. Mo Salah's the first player to get to 10 goals and 10 assists in the Premier League. Mo Salah is, every single week is like, oh, there's a headline, there's an Opta stat about something new that Mohamed Salah has done. And it's almost like they're kind of like finding them. But what I love about Salah is he clearly cares about quite a lot of these. Like when he scored in that game and took his shirt off, and you're like, it's one, I think you've proven how good a condition you're still in when these contract talks are going on. Zero, you're like, oh, you've just broken a record. You just surpassed someone on the scoring charts, or you've kind of moved up your way into where Liverpool's history books are. And I think that's such a nice thing, because there is an element, I think, these days sometimes where when a player moves to a club, especially, Salah didn't move to Liverpool late in his career, but it's not like he's Liverpool born and bred. In the same way, like Alan Shearer breaking the record at Newcastle, right? And going past that record and the celebrations in front of the Gallagher end, you're like, okay, fine, I completely understand that. Of course, when you're going to pass Jackie Milburn's record, because you probably knew what the record was before you joined the club. You have grown up with that record. But I love how Salah has dialed into this. He's like, yes, I want to get past these players. I want to be this modern living legend of Liverpool history. And I absolutely hugely highly rate how much he's kind of dialed into that. Be like, yes, I am rewriting the history books, and I am going to be someone that stands out in this club's folklore. It makes me really happy, because it'd be very easy for him to be like, look, I have no huge connection historically to the city of Liverpool. And, with the amount of times that players move around, maybe Salah's a slightly bad example here in the fact that he didn't have, huge loads and loads of moves before here. But people move around clubs, and there's obviously less of a link there. Football is more of a business than ever. So the idea that he's come in there and be like, yeah, I'm going to come in here and break all the records from these lads knocking around in the 70s, and I'm going to really care about it, makes me really happy.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. He's loving life. And even, when there are the moments where those social media messages do go out from Salah's account, I'm always trying to tell myself, that's not Salah. That's not Salah putting that out. That's his reps. Like, he's not posting this sort of stuff. He's just being brainwashed. So, Mo Salah, good guy, great footballer. Let's go on to my third favourite thing, mate, which is a bit random. But the Carabao Cup just made me realise, like, that domestic cups are starting to matter again in England, at least. And I just like, why did this not matter for so long? Why were so many teams and managers so happy to just let this competition pass them by when there's only 3 trophies you can win every season anyway as a football club in England, and the Premier League is hugely
4
unlikely.
if you're Mikel Arteta, mate. 4 if you're Mikel. He's right, by the way. Like, that is a trophy. I don't like, it's a trophy.
It is a trophy.
Look, I think it's a bit of a glorified trophy in that I probably wouldn't be, you're not racking them up in your list. But when players count their trophies at the end of careers and you get these things about that Maxwell and Dani Alves, you can absolutely bet your bottom dollar that they are including community shields in those trophies. That is so reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a prestige game. So, like, you've got to be a winner to be in it. So, most of the time, unless you've come second in the league one of those seasons. But the Carabao Cup and the scenes that we've seen leading up to where we are now with the teams in the semi-final, I was just like, yeah, this is what it's about. We don't need to just be using this competition to rest players and to give youngsters a chance. We can use it for that as well at the same time. But how about we use it as an opportunity to give our players and our fans that feel-good factor, what it feels like to do the hardest thing in football and the most fun thing in football, which is to get your hands on a trophy. Because it doesn't matter whether you're 7 years old or whether you're 37 years old. If you're on a football pitch and you've got a trophy in your hands, you feel good about yourself. And not enough players are feeling that outside of the teams you would expect to. Man City, back in the old days when they used to win stuff. Liverpool, Arsenal occasionally. But you're now in a time when you watch those quarterfinals, and I know Tottenham almost managed to throw it away, but they've got themselves into a semi-final. And yeah, they'll be disappointed with the draw. That's a little bit, Yeah, it's probably a bit heartbreaking, really, when you're drawn against Liverpool in the semi-final, as we know from when Fulham got to the Carabao Cup semi-final and drew against Liverpool, because you've just got to win one game against Liverpool. You've got to beat them over two legs, and that's a big task. But Tottenham are a big enough club that they should have a certain expectation and belief that they can do it. I don't think they probably can at the moment, but that's for matters being that Liverpool are so good and Tottenham are just a bit vulnerable. But yeah, just seeing them get to a semi-final just remind you of how you can win trophies. And you've just beaten Man United. Like, it's a big moment in your season, potentially. Newcastle, like, look at the semi-final draws. Arsenal against Newcastle, Tottenham versus Liverpool. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could get a Newcastle-Tottenham final? Like, an entire stadium where that match matters so much to every fan and every player. That would be such a good thing for the Carabao Cup. I know that, like, you'd be like, oh no, we want it to be Arsenal v Liverpool because they're bigger teams, and like, well, the TV audience will be huge. We see that game all the time, right? And I don't really care who wins, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
Tottenham, Newcastle, those clubs striving for a trophy, like, means forever. Like, they will celebrate that moment forever. Arsenal and Liverpool will have forgotten they won it by the time next season starts, because it just is so low down on, like, their chart of things they've achieved throughout history. But I think that this season has brought back that love, and I hope that that continues into the FA Cup once it gets going in the third round in January, and that clubs can use this as something, a barometer for success, really, because the Carabao Cup, I think one of the reasons clubs don't put too much emphasis on it is because the prize money is really low in terms of what else they can achieve in the Premier League. Like, I think you get less for winning the Carabao Cup than you do by going up a league position in the Premier League or something ridiculous like that. But it's not about that all the time. It doesn't always have to be about the money. And I hope that we're in a time now when clubs take the Carabao Cup seriously all the time, and then it becomes something for the best of the rest to try and actually win.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's an interesting one because, I mean, there are some shouts, and I know that these have been poo-pooed in time, and I've spoken about this before, that maybe it's time for just the teams of the Champions League to not be in the Carabao Cup, and actually open that up as a trophy that doesn't play in the same way. But I can understand why things are different in that regard. But I think we've seen this over the rest of Europe in recent years, and actually England's just catching up a little bit. Like the Copa del Rey final last year was between Athletic Club and Mallorca. Imagine how much that meant to those two fan bases, right? Fiorentina have been 2 Coppa Italia finals in the last years, right? They've lost them both. We've also lost both Conference League finals. It's not been particularly pretty for Fiorentina in finals. But there is a kind of sense of being like, okay, maybe we can break through the established order a little bit and push them up. And we've seen this, I think, across it. Germany as well, Bayern Munich crashing out in the last couple of years early on in this competition in the DFB Pokal. Leverkusen obviously won it last year, and it meant loads because it was their first trophy of this selection, right? And you're like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like you get to that point. I think all of that really matters. And like, it's one of those things that dial in, but it's not, just Leverkusen last year. I think the final before that, Freiburg were in it. Yes, they lost to Leipzig, but all of these things are huge. When Betis won the Copa del Rey back in 2020, like, it meant so much to the city. And I like the fact that these competitions, especially in Spain, and I can speak to that Betis one, obviously, but I remember Betis were, I think, 5th at the time in the league. And they had one weekend, I think they played Elche, who were towards the bottom of the table. And if they won, they went into the top 4. And all the fans were singing, all they care about, all they were talking about was win the final next weekend. Win the final. Our hearts are in the Cartuja. They are not at home.
Right,
and after they lost to Elche, like half this fan base, half the stadium stayed behind, not to berate them for losing to Elche and not getting into the top 4, just to be like, we're with you. Let's go and win this final. Like, that's what it means in a way that it doesn't or hasn't perhaps in, to clubs who go and win things every year. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, right? About City and what's going on at the top of the league. Like, these cups should matter because they're opportunities to go and actually lift silverware. And for so many clubs, it's not something that happens on a yearly basis. It's important that, it is taken seriously. And I'm completely with you. I would be absolutely delighted to see a Newcastle Tottenham final. in the Carabao Cup. It would mean so much. It would put so much on that.
It
Yes,
really
maybe the
would.
sponsors at Carabao wouldn't be too pleased in terms of their TV audiences. I don't care.
It shouldn't be about that. They should be wanting this because they should want to, have the elation. The scenes that I think you would see at Wembley would be unbelievable. I think it would be an amazing final.
That fan base would never drink a Red Bull again.
And that's exactly the benchmark of how you decide whether it's been a good year.
Exactly. Excellent. Right. Well, that's your bit wrapped up. After the break, I'm going to bring you 3 things that I've loved this season. Don't go anywhere.
The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? Select Quote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. Select Quote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.
Holiday magic is in the air, and DSW's got all the shoes to make your season extra merry. Believe, you've got parties to attend and lists to check twice, so DSW is taking care of the details, like gifts to make their eyes all aglow, styles that bring joy to your world, brands everyone wants, like UGG, Nike, Birkenstock, and more, and deals to make your budget bright. Find the perfect shoes for you and yours at a DSW store near you or dsw.com.
Did you know adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't? From swimming lessons to piano classes, as parents, we invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But how much are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids essential skills like earning, saving, and investing, giving them the tools for financial confidence. This investment costs less than an after-school treat at Starbucks. Start prioritizing their financial education today with Greenlight. Invest in their future at greenlight.com/podcast.
Happy Christmas, Rank Squad. Jack's here for part 2. You've heard what I love. What do you reckon? Are we going to go more niche here, or are we going to stick to the Premier League? I've got a feeling it might be a little bit more niche, or at least around Europe.
My number 3 is really niche. And the next 2 are a little bit more kind of wide-ranging. But number 3, I kind of wanted to give some love to someone that we haven't really talked loads about. I could have sat here and talked about Atalanta, but obviously we did that on The Truth last week, and I think there's much been made of how brilliant they've been. And that's not to take away from it. It's been sensational, and I'm absolutely gasping for Gasperini to win Serie A and lift the Scudetto. I think it'd be amazing as a story. But I think they've had enough coverage for the time being on Ranks. I just wanted to just give some love to Monaco, which is niche. But the amount of youngsters that Monaco are using this season, and they're bringing through this generation, another generation where we're going to look back, and we always talk about those teams, right, who bring through a collection of players at the same time. And Monaco did this, right, with the Mbappe, Bernardo Silva, Fabinho generation that turned out to be exceptional, kind of across the board almost. I think they're building another one. And I think that there is going to come a point in the next few seasons where we look back and we're like, wow, they all played at Monaco together. That's cool. And so the amount of players under the age of 23 that are being utilized, not just, as bit part players, but as crucial elements of this team, and that they brought in as well, either this summer or in summers before. Of course, there's a couple of academy graduates. There always is. But Giorgio Lincana came in the summer. He's got like 700 minutes. I think he scored 3 times already this season. 18-year-old Nigerian forward, really exciting. Elias Ben Seguir is just sensational. 19, Moroccan forward. He is just the business. And him and Akliouche, who's a little bit older, Magnus Akliouche, he's 22. But two of these players that you just like love to see on either wing, just running at players, making it happen. Their midfield partnerships are really, really cool. They brought in Lamine Camara from Metz, who's 20, Senegalese. He's been brilliant this season, but also Sungutu Magassa, who's played a few less minutes, but 21, another academy graduate, and Elliot Matazo, who came back. And he's a really, really special player as well. And it feels like, these midfielders, that's three of them under the age of 22, right? Who are being used extensively across the course of this season. And then you've got Flo Balogun, who's obviously injured at the moment, but 23 years old. You've got Singo, who's the centre-back, who's 23, and Vanderson, who is the right-back, the Brazilian, who came in a couple of seasons ago, who's still only 23. And I was looking at it being like, there's like 6 key players in this team under the age of 23. And they've put together, I think the oldest player in the squad, like full stop, is Takumi Minamino, who's 29 and still feels relatively fresh in terms of where he is in his career. So just, they're third in the league at the moment. And the title race in in France seems to have gone to PSG at this point. They're 10 points clear already. But I just really like what Monaco are building here. I wanted to give them some love, and especially off the back of your golden oldies bit there. It is nice to see, certain teams putting together really young squads, and Chelsea are one of them at the moment. That what we're seeing in that build is finally starting to bear fruit. All very exciting. This Monaco side, I think, are lots of fun, and they've bought really well. They've been very smart in their recruitment, but also feels like they're giving these opportunities to young players. And where we're at with it, and how many key players, Christian Mawissa getting a go as well at centre-back, 19-year-old, I think he's French Congolese, but you're seeing them really utilised in this team, and the fact that they are third, the fact that they've been flying in the Champions League, yes, obviously they took that heavy loss to Arsenal, but they were very good in that game. They, the 3-0 scoreline flattered Arsenal to an extent. You're kind of coming at it from a place like, the average age of the squad is like 24. This team is growing into itself. And I think that if they are allowed to stay together for a little while longer, something quite special could be cooking at Monaco. So I just wanted to give them some love. It's probably not what everyone was expecting from the first bit here, but it's been something that I've kind of been trying to find an angle to talk about for a couple of weeks. And this seemed like a nice place to just stick it in the start of things I've been loving across the course of this season. Shout out to Monaco.
Yeah, I've got a fondness for Monaco just because of BR football, basically. Like that team reminds me of like when I started the job with Sam. Like we obviously met each other at Bleacher Report, and at the time it was me, Sam, and Marcus Speller from the Football Ramble, and we were doing like daily shows at Ranks. It's impossible not to say that, at Bleacher Report. And Monaco obviously was not a team I had watched extensively. All my career I'd been doing Champions League football, but really for Premier League teams and covering Premier League football mostly. And then Kylian Mbappe was coming through, and we were suddenly talking about him all the time, and we were watching Monaco all the time. And so there's a fondness for that 2017-18, I guess, Monaco team that will kind of always like live on. I don't love like Monaco as an area. I don't love Monaco as a football stadium, but that's kind of by the by. Like I'd like what Monaco represented at that time, and I like that they're back on the radar now. I thought there was a chance they came back onto the radar properly this season as like actual challengers, but they're putting up an even better front than maybe I thought they would.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really enjoyable to watch. I just wanted to give the Monegasques some love. I'm with you. I've been there, and it was quite nice to look at the cars and the boats, but I couldn't afford anything, so I had to leave. But I was like, I actually can't afford to have lunch here. I'm going to have to actually depart the Principality. But I was like, just came to look at the Ferraris for a bit and then just wandered off. So and that was quite
luckily
something.
I went there on expenses once, so I was all right. But yeah, if it wasn't for someone else paying for it, I would not have fitted in at all.
No, 100%. And number two, I wanted to give some love to the managers that have come in and just done a really good job. And this is like a really basic thing. Obviously, some managers always come in and do a good job. But I think a lot of people were questioning some of the managerial appointments over the summer, right? And in the Premier League, I think that goes for both Arne Slot and for Enzo Maresca. Maresca in particular, I think everyone was a bit, not necessarily confused, but we were like, wow, that's a bit of a gamble considering that Pochettino was getting something more out at the end of last season out of that Chelsea squad. I think a lot of people were like, oh, maybe he's turned it around. Maybe he can lead them forward. And to take a gamble then on an inexperienced manager who'd only really managed in the Championship, done a good job there, but that was a gamble with this squad. But Maresca has proved everyone wrong so far. He's done an excellent job in moulding this Chelsea side and actually getting these players to work in the way that he wanted. He's been far less stringent, I think, in terms of the way he demanded that Leicester played football last season compared to what we've seen from his Chelsea team. And I think that ultimately there were question marks over how he'd managed the squad, how he'd managed some of these big superstar personalities that had come in. He's answered all of those questions so far. And, even if Chelsea aren't in the title race, as he continues to insist, but also Chelsea fans continue to insist, then, to have taken them back into even that conversation must be seen as a massive, massive win and a bit of a masterstroke in terms of people were questioning it. And that's what happened. With Liverpool, I think there was, I remember doing episodes with Liverpool fan channels talking about Amorim and whether he was going to be the next Liverpool manager. And they obviously soured on that idea and decided to go with Arne Slot. Now, Slot felt like quite a nice fit, but there was, a lack of genuine top evidence that he had the facilities to prove it. A team that, wanted to challenge for the title, even if that wasn't on the immediate this season radar. I think he's surpassed all expectations. And you can look at this and say, okay, he got quite a nice start. But what Liverpool have gone through in the last 10 games or so and come out of almost flawlessly is an incredible run of fixtures, considering they didn't sign almost anyone in the summer. Yeah. Obviously, they brought Chiesa in, but we've barely seen a peep from Fede Chiesa, and Mamadas really doesn't join until next summer, considering they went all in on the whole Zubimendi thing, and then that fell through. To actually have turned this squad around and actually built on what was there, utilised a few more players like Graham Gravenberch in what they've done and what they've put together, it's sensational. Right. And honestly, I think that even the most excited and optimistic Liverpool fan would not have predicted that they would be, this far clear at this point in the season. Now, you can't necessarily, as we said at the top, count for the Manchester City drop-off being this severe. But even still, most of us thought that as soon as City dropped off, Arsenal were going to be there to fill that void. And it's Liverpool that have stepped into that breach and been the ones to beat. So Arne Slot surpassing all expectations. I think we should probably give some love to Vincent Kompany here. That was a bold move from Bayern, considering he's just been relegated with Burnley. And whilst there was some evidence that he could play with a team that were dominant and were able to kind of work themselves through, he probably deserves some love for having Bayern where they are. They're not perfect. And I still think they have a way to go in terms of when they're playing opposition of similar caliber. Can he find ways to outmaneuver people tactically? But he's done better, I think, than I thought he was going to in his first season. He's not been fazed by that job at all. That job has chewed up and spat out some people who, have been bigger names than Vincent Kompany, who have had more managerial experience than Kompany. It does feel like he's gone in there and he feels like a nice fit for the project, a nice fit for the system. And I think that everyone at Bayern is pretty happy with how things are going so far. There's a couple of blips and maybe it's not been completely perfect, but with a rookie manager, that was never really going to be the case. You go over to Spain and you look at what Hansi Flick has put together in his first run. Now, yes, Barcelona have tailed off a little bit, but, considering what happened in the summer, considering the struggles they've had off the pitch and considering that Real Madrid brought Kylian Mbappe in, I don't think any of us were sitting here thinking that it was going to be this tight or that Atleti were going to be top. That's a whole different question. At this point in the season, that he was going to be able to bring through so many of these youngsters and turn them into maybe not household names, but names that people in football are paying attention to overnight in, the likes of Marc Casado. And it's all very exciting, I think, in terms of the future at Barcelona right now. And Hansi Flick's been a big part of why they've been able to move things on. Now, maybe that doesn't end in silverware. Maybe it doesn't end in a league title this season. But actually, compared to how toxic things felt towards the end of last season and where it got to, considering some of the injuries he's had to deal with, and this probably goes for Slot as well, and different players in different positions, I think that Hansi Flick's done a really impressive job. And there was a big question mark over the fact he didn't even speak Spanish, right? And whilst that is not a criticism, because a lot of people don't speak different languages, to be wrapped up in the entorno of Barcelona and the press cycle and the media cycle and having to, coach players in Spain who will expect to be taught in Spanish, that was a question mark over his head. I think he's dealt with a lot of these things really, really well. You go to like Nuri Sahin, who hasn't been perfect at Dortmund again, but I think has shown that there is a future there. And whilst there is this pantheon of top managers in the game, right, in the likes of Guardiola and the likes of Ancelotti, the kind of old guard, if you will, now, which seems kind of mad considering where we were a few years back. But there also is this extremely cool young generation of managers coming through. And not everyone I've mentioned there fits into that. But then, you bring in the likes of Xabi Alonso, I think won his 50th game in 75 late games at Leverkusen in the league the other week. And you're like, that's an incredible record. And given his caliber, I think Amorim getting the Manchester United job is an exciting one and will potentially bear fruit. I'm still a big believer in that. And I think that they've appointed the right man. A lot of young managers starting to get these jobs at bigger clubs and have the potential to build a new generation of top managers, I think is a really exciting thing for the game. And I've been really impressed with a lot of them and what they've done, especially those that people wrote up.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to have sat me down here 1 year ago and said, tell me everything you know about Arne Slot, Ruben Amorim, and Enzo Maresca, it'd have been a very short conversation. That's weird, isn't it? Like these people that are now kind of household names on podcasts, TV, in the world of football, things that we just chat about casually, like we've been doing this for years. Even 7-8 months ago, these guys weren't really on most people's radar. And that's how quickly football can change and transform and how quickly people's profiles can be elevated. Obviously, there's people right now that are doing really well in their jobs and soon are going to be pushed into the limelight. But I do like that you can come so far, so fast, and that we have to all kind of catch up and learn all about these people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all very, very exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing how, some of these careers are not going to go as well as others, right? I'm not saying that all of these are going to be fundamentally brilliant and successful managers across the course of things. But some of them will, I think, elevate to that top tier. And it's going to be exciting to kind of track their development. The last thing I wanted to talk about, and my favorite thing this season, is the title races across Europe. And I know we can talk about this every year and you can find title races whenever, but it feels like things are a little bit tighter than they have been in some time in a lot of different leagues. Now, obviously, Serie A is the kind of benchmark for this, and Serie A has been doing this for years. So there's been a title race in Serie A for quite a number of seasons now. But I think this one right now between Atalanta, Napoli, and Inter, two of which we would have picked out at the start of the season, there's currently 3 points between them, but Inter have a game in hand and they are third. So if Inter were to win their game in hand, which is against Fiorentina, they will go level on points with Atalanta. But even if they were to draw, it would be 2 points between the top three. Now, Napoli, we said under Conte, probably going to be in the conversation. Inter were reigning champions. We expected them to be back amongst it, given their business in the summer and their squad depth. But Atalanta rising to the top of this, absolutely unbelievable. They're going to be top at Christmas, I think first time ever. All just incredibly exciting in Serie A. It's even tighter, obviously, in La Liga. There is 3 points between Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atleti. But that all changed at the weekend with Atleti beating Barcelona. Yes, Atleti and Real have games in hand, but all got very tight up there. And I do think that after December and early January rest, Barcelona will start the second half of the season fast. It looks really, really fun in La Liga. And it's not something we've seen for a little bit of time, right? It has been not necessarily running away with it, winning the league by March, but they have been a clear kind of favourite from Christmas time for some time. I don't think we've got that this year. And don't count out Athletic either. Currently 5 points behind Atleti, but in an absolutely unbelievable consistent run of winning and just doing what they were doing last year and taking it onwards again. And very impressive. And what's happening at Athletic, what has been for a while, but I wouldn't write them out just yet either. The Bundesliga, Bayern currently 4 points clear of Leverkusen, but Leverkusen flying at the moment and Bayern hit a little bit of a stumble. I think probably Eintracht too far back now, 9 points out, and Leipzig as well. But, we might have a tussle there between Bayern and Leverkusen, which I think will be a lot of fun, especially with Bayern, as we say, much better than they were last season. it does feel like that one could really evolve into something quite special. Both only lost one game, Bayern on top by 4, courtesy of the fact that they've converted 2 more of their draws into wins. But Leverkusen didn't start the season brilliantly, and now they do feel like they're firing on all cylinders. It's an exciting one. And then the Primera, which often gets overlooked, but there is 1 point between Benfica, Sporting and Porto after 15 games.
That's fun.
And now, bear in mind that none of these are teams that are particularly pleased with their manager. Benfica more so than everyone else. Obviously, they've replaced Roger Schmidt with Bruno Lage, but that hasn't been perfect. Sporting look like they're going to fire João Pereira before Christmas, which might be one of the shortest turns in terms of how that one's going. And Porto, very unhappy with the fact that Vitor Bruno is in charge there. And speaking to fans around the stadium when I was there a couple of weeks ago, not happy at all. But all 3 of these teams have won 12 games. The only reason that Benfica are top of the table is they've converted 1 loss into a draw. So all very exciting. Sporting obviously had the advantage and have dropped it since Pereira replaced Ruben Amorim in a couple of weeks ago. But I think it's going to be a real fun one because none of these teams are perfect. They all have their flaws, and it could go, any and which way, especially it depends on who Sporting bring in now. I'm not 100% sure that Porto are going to finish the season with Vitor Bruno as their manager. I think that one's got more twists and turns in it to come. Then you get to the Premier League, right? And Chelsea can insist they're not in a tight race all they want, but they are. And they're 4 points behind Liverpool. Yes, Liverpool have a game in hand, but it's against Everton, which means that they're going to draw 0-0. So it's going to be 5 points. And it's going to be 5 points to Chelsea and 7 points to Arsenal. Maybe that's too big a gap to make up. Maybe it's not. I mean, I've already said that I think Liverpool are going to win it. I do. I maintain that. But I think it will get tighter before Liverpool pull away. And I think that it's going to be very intriguing to see how teams respond to that as it comes about. So the title races across Europe, it feels, a little bit tired. The only one that really doesn't feel like there's much going on is that 10-point gap for PSG, right? But even in the Eredivisie, Ajax having a quiet resurgence, and PSV, I think, are going to win the league. But you get to that point, you're like, Ajax side have started to cook a little bit, and they already beat PSV this season. Maybe there's something in that one as well, like legs across the board in terms of title races. We're in a really special place, I think. And, I've talked a bit about fatigue, and I don't really want to put that in here because this was meant to be a thing about what we love this season, and it's not something I love at all, that players are being run into the ground. But I do think that will have a bearing on how all of this pays out. And as we see things, ticking along in the second half of the season, as we get to that home straight, as players have put more and more games into their legs, how do teams respond to that? What's the depth like? Where can you go in these places? I think we've got a really, really intriguing second half of the season set up, and I'm excited to see how it plays.
Oh, we definitely have. Yeah, we definitely have. It's a good place to be right now in the football world, and there's going to be some brilliant episodes of Ranks coming up in the new year, I hope, as we analyse the breakdowns of these leagues and the breakdown of a couple of these clubs, because they won't all go the way that we're all expecting. There will be some twists and turns. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited, mate.
Yeah. And with that, I think it's probably time for us to wrap up. We said it'd be short and sweet today and a little bit lighthearted. Wanted to do just some things we've been enjoying over the course of the season. But from me, thank you very, very much for listening. Thank you very much. A Merry Christmas to my co-host, my friend, and yours, Mr. Dean Jones.
Oh, thank you, mate. Happy Christmas to you too, and Merry Christmas and a happy festive season to all of you out there. Stay safe, stay positive. Ranks are always here for you. We'll see you in the new year. Well, before the new year, will we? What's our programming going to be, Jack? Are we coming back on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day? Where are we going to be landing?
We're gonna release on New Year's Day. So that'll be
what
exciting.
A bang! What a way to start.
We're not missing another Wednesday. We don't miss Wednesdays. True. That's how we land. There we land.
We're not going
as
early.
The catchphrase of 2024.
Exactly. So we are seeing you in the new year.
We will see you in the new year. Simon Dougie will be back on Friday, however, talking about Kylian Mbappe at Real Madrid. So that's exciting. If you do want to catch Dean and I before the new year, we will be talking on Monday about some of the fixtures that have gone on with our post-box episode.
Come over to Patreon, people.
Come join us on the Patreon. Nice little festive present You'll have a good time over there. We enjoy it.
Use
You can
your
ask
Christmas
Dean
money on it.
all the questions about the transfer window that you want to. The transfer show will be returning in the new year. So lots to look forward to across January and beyond. But for now, thank you so much for listening as ever. We wish you a wonderful festive period. Happy Christmas, happy Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating. We hope you have a wonderful time. I've been Jack Collins. This has been Ranks FC. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.
The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? SelectQuote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.
Where'd you get those shoes? Easy. They're from DSW. Because DSW has the exact right shoes for whatever you're into right now. You know, like the sneakers that make office hours feel like happy hour. The boots that turn grocery aisles into runways. And all the styles that show off the many sides of you, from daydreamer to multitasker and everything in between. Because you do it all in really great shoes. Find a shoe for every you at your DSW store or dsw.com.
Parents, did you know that only 50% of U.S. adults are financially literate? Millions of people don't fully understand how to manage money, and it's up to you to not let your kids grow up into that statistic. With Greenlight's educational money app and parent-controlled debit card, you can teach them how to earn, save, and invest wisely. The earlier they learn, the better prepared they'll be to manage their money and build a financially secure life. Give your kids the financial edge they need. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast. That's greenlight.com/podcast.
The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? SelectQuote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.